Welcome to the Curling for Change podcast. My name is Wil Robertson, and I will be your host for this limited series, brought to you by Curling Canada and sponsored by the World Curling Federation. Without further ado, let's get right into today's discussion. Welcome to the Curling for Change podcast, hosted by Curling Canada and sponsored by the World Curling Federation. My name is Wil Robertson. I'm joined with some fantastic people today who are all recipients of Curling Canada's All Heart Curling Award, an award that's been started in the last year and is going to carry forward into this year. Application period is open for those youth curlers who are interested. You'll notice we are all young. You can go and apply. It is open, and it provides funds for diversity and inclusion programs in your community with your curling club. So it provides an amount of money for the curler themselves to help develop their program, to help with their costs for both the season, school, whatever it may be, but also helping the club with the cost in enacting their program as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to learn a little bit about everyone here. We're going to learn a little bit about who they are, what they've been up to from all corners of the country and from their programs. I'm super excited for this conversation. It is also our first episode of an 8-part limited series. So please do stick with us if you enjoy. Do share with your friends if you so choose. And we'd really appreciate it. So without further ado, we're going to get into this conversation. I'm going to have everybody introduce themselves first. So Sitaye, let's start with you.
Hey everyone, my name is Sitaye Penney. I'm from Portugal Coast, St. Phillips. It's a town just out of St. John's, Newfoundland, Labrador. I've been curling for 11 years now, and next season will be my 12th season curling. So that's something about me.
Fantastic. Luke, over to you.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Luke Robbins. I'm 18 years old. I'm from Winnipeg, Manitoba, and this upcoming season is going to be my 11th season curling.
All right. Thank you. Welcome. Kamraan, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kamraan. You can call me Kam. I am a Bachelor of Health Science student at Queen's University, and I am also from Kingston, Ontario. I've been curling off and on non-consecutively for around 13 years.
Fantastic. I can hear people already at home going, how have you curled for this long? So without further ado, let's get right into some of our questions today. I know you guys are all eager to get going, as am I. So just first, let's talk a little bit about what led you to apply for the All Heart Award. Some of these application processes seem really difficult, seem really tricky for people. So just talk a bit about why did you apply for the All Heart Award? Luke, do you want to start?
Yeah, for sure. So just to give a little background, I'm a very proud Ukrainian Canadian. I've been taking part in the Ukrainian community ever since I was around 3 years old. And after hearing and seeing everything that happened last February, being at a curling event when it happened, it sort of gave me a little connection to want to be the best person I can be for others, which is what allowed me to develop and create a program that would introduce curling to Ukrainian newcomers to Canada. So without the help of the All Heart Award, none of this would have been possible. I wouldn't have been able to put on my sessions. I wouldn't have been able to build connections with so many different people. And it just sort of like the All Heart Award was sort of a kickstart for everything that I was able to do for my program.
Okay, great. That's super interesting. I think, that goes to a piece of why it's important to you as well, right? Whenever we have a personal attachment to some of the work that we want to do, that's always a kind of driver. And I know it has been for me as well. Sitaye, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. So one of the reasons why I applied for the award was most of people know, obviously I'm Black, so a lot of people, you don't see a lot of Black people curling and stuff. So with this award, I was able to include a lot more, people seeing me were able to think, oh my goodness, I can do this as well. So it's just helping them see it's not just a white person sport in general. So anybody can play the sport. And so the award helped me be able to create a program to have more diversity into the curling club and stuff. So yeah.
For sure. Thank you for that, Kamraan. What led you to apply for it?
Yeah, so as you all can see, I'm a racialized individual, and throughout my junior curling career, I have been one of the only racialized individuals in curling facilities, at tournaments, you name it. There's only a handful of us in Ontario, and that sort of drove why I wanted to apply for the All Heart Award, and that I wanted to create some sort of program to increase the representation of racialized individuals in curling. And and the reason why I created the program was really because of my experience being one of the only racialized individuals in the sport, knowing that there's room for growth in certain demographics.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. And I know from an outside perspective as well that, trying to get diverse communities, but also racialized communities involved in curling is something that we really have to work very hard on. I know, as all of you have curled in junior curling, you know, seeing more racialized people in the sport is something that's only come on very recently. For a long, 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 long time. Um, as you both spoke to, don't see a lot of folks in the sport. Maybe we need to think a little bit more about how we can do that. And I'm really excited to learn more about how you guys have done that. Um, so the All Heart Curling Award, for people who don't know, does include in its application the need for an action plan. So when you apply to the award, which I hope some of the young people listening will, you need to kind of outline, what you're going to do with your curling club. What are you going to do in your community to achieve the goals you've set out to improve diversity and equity and inclusion in your community and in your club? So, Kamraan, do you want to start and kind of continue and tell us a little bit about what was in your action plan?
Yeah, so I'll start off with a brief summary of what I proposed and then get into more specifics. But in general, my program was a Learn to Curl program introducing racialized adults to the sport. But the long story is that this program was inspired by a similar program that was run at Cataract Way Golf and Country Club, which is my home club, which was run or started by my mom with funding from Curling Canada. And I was an instructor in this program. And this program was a program for Black, Indigenous, and racialized youth, introducing them how to curl. And it was a Learn to Curl program that was run every second Sunday. And it's been going on for the past 2 years. And what we noticed in that program was that in addition to interest from racialized youth, there was also a large interest from their parents, who are adults who signed them up from the program, and they expressed interest in trying out the sport for themselves. So that information, coupled with my experience being one of the only racialized individuals in the sport, as well as just seeing the need to increase diversity and inclusion in curling, led me to pitch my program for racialized adults.
Yeah, interesting. And it's interesting to think about the dynamic of, if you're able to bring adults into the curling community from a racialized community, you're also able to bring youth in as well. That's an intriguing one to kind of think about, and one we might dive a little more deeply into. Luke, what was your action plan inclusive of?
The biggest thing about my inclusivity plan was definitely about creating a welcoming environment for everybody that was partaking. Obviously, fleeing a war zone and everything like that, it's awful and brutal circumstances. So the main pitch I had in mind was to create a very positive environment for everybody. So I originally started out creating I think I started out in my plan when I submitted my application. I think I had around 5 session dates where each session would take on a particular aspect. So first would be like, this is how you move along the ice. This is like the terminology and all that stuff, all the way up until the point where we're able to have like a full on game. So that was like the sort of first idea I had. And I eventually cut it down to a couple session dates where we just like packed everything and as much as we could into the 2 and a bit hours before everybody got too cold and went inside. But it was just the idea of being able to create the positive environment for everybody that was taking part, and knowing that like Manitoba alone has one of the highest Ukrainian Canadian populations per capita. So knowing that in Manitoba, it's a very friendly and welcoming environment, especially for Ukrainians, and by being able to create the plan and become more inclusive and positive towards Ukrainians, was something that will help me really become successful with it, and as well, which allowed me to receive a lot of support from my curling club.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I want to come back to a piece of that in terms of the kind of welcoming part that we kind of all have seen in our own programs, but also worry about, I think, a little bit about, okay, I'm going to create this program for whichever community with whichever focus, but worry a little bit about how welcome are people going to feel, or how can I make folks feel more welcome in my curling community and in my curling club? And I might dive into that a little bit. Sitaye, what did your plan include?
My plan is kind of similar to Luke's and stuff about like giving that like welcoming energy to everybody. So for my plan, I basically had like one day, I had 3 hours, basically just an introduction to curling, just teaching everybody the basics of curling, and then having Brad come in, like Brad Gucci come in and just talk with them for a bit. And for like on the ice and stuff, we had like one-on-one with people, because a lot of like the people that I had come in for the program like didn't have good English. So having one-on-one was like a lot easier for everybody, so they could have a better understanding what was like how to play the sport and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so you mentioned Brad Gushu helped out a little bit. Was he supportive of your plan? Was he able to kind of help you through that a bit, or did he kind of buy into it, or?
He was actually very supportive of my plan. He came in and he spoke to everybody, because so we had 3 hours. So like for like the first bit, we were on the ice. Then we came back inside, have food, and then he came up and like just spoke about curling and his experiences in curling and how he got into it. And then he spoke with a few of the kids that were there as well. So just building connections and stuff. That was nice.
No, that's really kind of him, and also really great to have that resource available to you and buy into part of your plan. Um, I just wanted to ask a bit about, like, were any of you worried about people actually buying into what you were doing? You know, what were you worried about people feeling welcomed into, like, these activities that you had planned so much and had worked so hard on? You know, could you speak to a bit of that anxiety, or if you thought it would succeed? Kamraan, I could see you kind of engage in what I was saying there. Did you want to start?
Yeah, I think there's two parts to this answer. The first part is that uh, there's always going to be a pushback or a lack of engagement or a lack of buy-in from individuals when you're introducing a new program that they may not be familiar with or comfortable with. And I think all of us here probably experience that to some extent in our program. But I think the most important thing is that so long as we accomplished our goals with the program, and that in my case specifically, so long as the racialized adults who I introduced to curling had a great experience, um, felt welcome in the curling facility, and were introduced to the sport and felt like they could play that with their kids and their families and their friends, then I think the program was a success regardless of if there was buy-in or not from other individuals.
No, I think that's a great point to make as well. Luke, did you want to build off of that a little?
Yeah, for sure. Like I think one of the biggest things that went on with these programs, I think with anybody that was running these programs, was definitely creating like good connections with others. And for in my case, one of the biggest issues with that was probably the language barrier, because obviously Ukrainian and English nowhere near similar in terms of language. So what I had happen was I got my grandma, who is fluent in Ukrainian, to come out, and she pretty much was a translator for all of our sessions, helping she never had tried curling. She's never really done it except for coming out to watch me play in a few bonspiels. But having her there was something that really helped, not like what I said earlier about creating the positive environment. It made everybody feel welcome and that they were in a safe space, which is what I don't know how to word it, but it put a lot of smiles on people's faces, which was nice to see. Such a welcoming environment for them.
Yeah, and I think it's super important to have that element of comfort for folks who are kind of new
Definitely.
to the curling, or are new to the curling club. Like, if we're trying to welcome people into our sport and into our community, well, you have to find a tether for them to latch onto, right? Of whether it's your grandmother and that language connection and that culture connection to kind of make someone feel a little more at ease in trying something new or in being in a different space that they may not feel comfortable in, or say whether it's Brad, for example, someone everybody knows coming in and being a bit of a conduit for taking some of the pressure off of not remembering, like, oh, wait a minute, I'm part of this program kind of thing, or I'm part of this event. It's, oh no, there's Brad. Wow, how cool is this? And some of that focus changes, and some of that, whether again it could be language, it could be a space, it could be so for some people, like I know for myself in certain anxious situations, just focusing on the sport. I know many of us may be able to relate to that. Is sometimes really, really therapeutic and makes it a little more comfortable for people. Sitaye, did you have something that you wanted to add to that as well?
About the making people feel welcome and everything. So
Yeah.
with me, I had a lot of my volunteers were like high school or just like out of high school. So they were younger, and a lot of the people that I had come in for the program were around the same age. So like right off the bat, there's like connections being built and everything. And if there was a language barrier, a lot of the students that I did have there, they knew English and a different language. So like they're able to translate everything like really well for each other and everything. And like everybody was communicating, like after some people realized they're from the same country, they knew how to speak the same language and everything. They're like, oh my goodness, that's so cool and everything. So yeah.
Yeah, I've volunteered at a few camps when I was in Moncton, and that was something we found all the time as well with immigrant communities, because it's a bilingual city. For a lot of francophone immigrants, it was really comfortable because a lot of us were able to speak French with them, and even if it was broken French, sometimes different to the dialect, it was able to kind of ground them a little bit in that space and in that area. Um, I had a conversation at the Business of Curling Symposium in Sackville the other day with folks who are asking questions about how to include younger people, in their curling community, in their curling club more than they have. And one of my points to them was, well, go talk to them, right? Put yourself out of your comfort zone and go and talk to them and ask them the question of, why haven't you tried curling, or why isn't curling something that you've thought of, and listen to the answer. And if it means including other younger people in programs like yours, or if it means maybe thinking about how we can make curling clubs more welcoming spaces to younger people, those are all super important pieces of that. Kamraan and Luke, you both mentioned different pieces that I think were really, really interesting. Um, who was there someone that pushed you guys to apply for the All Heart Curling Award a little? Someone who encouraged you a little more? Luke, it sounded like your grandmother was pretty key to your plan. I don't know if she maybe inspired you a little to do that, or do you want to talk to that a little?
Yeah, she definitely had a role in it. Maybe not like physically, but it was more of a mentally thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like like what I mentioned earlier, I was at my junior provincials when the war started, and they were there out in Brandon, which is about 2.5 hours away. They drove the whole 2.5 hours to come watch me play. And after my first game was when I found out, and seeing the look on her face, seeing the look on my mom's face, seeing just anybody in my family, like there was like a big feeling of fear. And yeah, it was all fear pretty much actually. But when I began to apply for the award, I kind of had that picture in the back of my head, knowing that this is how others are being affected. And I want to try to create something that'll sort of, I don't even know how to describe it, bring a positive uh bring a positive wave into their life after dealing with something so brutal.
Yeah, and I think that's a strong message. Is sometimes sports and community in that sense, particularly one like curling, can be something that brings a little bit of that warmth, a little bit of that kind of familial sense when we might not have it as much. Particularly, I can't even imagine the fear that your family or that those would have felt like that. But in that time, that's a time where you want to come together and maybe do something that takes some focus off of that bad and of that negativity and that negative situation, even if it's for a little bit, right? Even if it's for a little period. So that's really powerful. Thank you for that.
It's kind of like the idea of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Totally. Absolutely. I think that's a great way of putting it. Sitaye, was there someone in your family that drove you to apply for the award?
Well, my mom, so like she's like always told me to like when there's opportunities, you should take it kind of thing. Because like I am a very like I get very nervous trying new things and stuff. So like she kind of pushed me out there to try new things and everything. And you don't know what opportunities can be given, and you can't just like let it go for waste and everything. And so like I'm also adopted. So I feel like for me, I just take whatever opportunity that I am given, because like I never want to take anything for granted and stuff, because like some people aren't given these opportunities and that I have. So I feel like I should like go ahead and just go for it sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you only live once. It's that kind of mentality, and I think I've found that a little bit as well. Obviously, not in the same way as you came to that, but you know, in trying to take every opportunity you can, whether it's in school or in curling, or I think something that helps with that is taking a moment to step back and see where you've been, and look and see where you are, and to stop and feel that moment. I think I had a moment where I was curling at U18 nationals for the first time, and for me it was one of those, like, I don't care if this is the first time or the last time, but my province's emblem is on my back, and that's enough for me. Like, I don't care if I get back here. But it was one of those moments where I kind of pulled myself back and went, wow, like this is where I've been, in my life, and this is where I am. And it's a similar thing in this program as well, and trying to have this kind of impact in our communities is, going from maybe having an internal belief of I don't know how much of a difference I can make, right? Or how can I kind of change the face of curling as it was. But little by little, we come to understand that you actually do have a lot of power and a lot of opportunity if you take it, and you go for it and try and spread a bit of that opportunity with others. And you've all done that, which is amazing. Kamraan, is there someone that drove you in applying as well, or?
Yeah, I think my mom's program for racialized youth really inspired me to apply for the Al-Hart Award and propose a program for racialized adults. Just seeing the impact that she made in the curling community and being a part of that as an instructor inspired me to create my own change for a similar but different demographic.
Yeah, for sure. Then thank you for that, because I could hear through that conversation there were bits of someone helped you with this. It kind of, it's always interesting to know what kind of pushes people, or what the support was in the background to help you do it. And I know a lot of people who may think of applying for it, or who are looking to make similar impacts in their curling club or their community, may want to put a little thought into who is your rock, and trying to um, maybe make a change or make a difference in whatever way you can. So was there something specific, maybe a moment or an experience, or something like that inspired you to go ahead and apply? Sitaye, was there a moment that really you said, this is, I need to do this?
Yeah. So basically, at my curling club, like in like all of Newfoundland, I'm the only Black person that curls and stuff, and like everyone at my schools knows that and stuff, and like so I thought it'd be like a great idea just to let people like also try the sport as well, because a lot of people just assume, oh, like Sitaye just plays it just because they don't realize how fun it actually is and stuff. And it just kind of just always being the only Black person for me was just like, okay, you know what? I just kind of want someone else there, just not being by myself all the time, like that kind of feeling. So just having some more, like more diversity kind of is just like, I think that it just makes me feel more comfortable kind of sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you for sharing that. I'm just, were there times curling? Like you've competed at a national level, you've competed at a high level in Newfoundland and Labrador for a while. You know, a lot of people are coming to know you more as you get older in the game. Do you feel lonely sometimes when you're when you're at a tournament or when you're in a club and you go, I am the only one like me who's here? Does that feel lonely sometimes?
Like it's like no one, it's not like anyone does anything wrong. It's just like a feeling almost like it's just me. Like
Yeah.
if there's some other kid out there that sees me, it's just like they're only going to see me because like obviously when like you see everyone else, it's just like everyone else just they're all just white. There's like and then you just see me, I just stand out so much, and I just feel like sometimes you wish you kind of just like everyone else kind of thing, because I also play soccer as well. And like in soccer, it was like usually me and this other girl that like just both of us were always together all the time. So it's just like in curling, it was just me all the time. And it just kind of feels it's not like it's like a little bit kind of lonely feeling, but like sometimes I'm good with it, sometimes I'm not kind of thing. But like right now, I'm kind of just getting used to it kind of thing now. So yeah.
Yeah, and thank you for that. I think sometimes as well, it's important to recognize that, you know, you feel in that moment and you're making a change to make sure that others don't,
Yeah.
right? And you know, I was with Carly Smith in Sackville at the symposium the other day, and she was speaking to curling with one arm, and some of the views that she had felt with that, and prejudice that she had faced with that as well. But her point was, you know, she did that for so long, and then she got a little bit of attention for it when she went to nationals and was obviously the first amputee to play in able body curling, and fantastic achievement the first but not the last. And she spoke to a young boy in Newfoundland who had seen her curl, and he has the one hand as I understand it. And yeah, and he said, well, I can do that too. You know, here's this girl who I don't know who she is, I don't know what she's doing, but I can see her doing something I didn't think I could.
Yeah.
Right. And that power is something that, like, I had no idea I had. Like, sometimes I'm sure some of you have felt this as well, where it's like, oh, maybe I did inspire someone to come with me and to be that other person, whether it's for you or for someone else down the line. I think that's, you know, a perspective that we sometimes miss, but also need to create more of. And so
Yeah.
so thank you for working towards that. Kamraan, was there a moment that inspired you or something that inspired you to apply?
I don't think I'd be able to limit it to a single point. I think my drive to apply stemmed from multiple factors that occurred over longer periods of time, namely my experience throughout my entire junior curling career as one of the only racialized individuals competing in Ontario. My experience as one of the only racialized people that I've seen in curling clubs across the province, and then just the insight that there were parents in the curling program for racialized youth who were interested in trying out the sport, and just the general lack of diversity in curling all sort of compounded and drove me to apply.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And those are important lessons for us to take into account, right? Is what's driven all of us to do this program and to apply for this award is some of the reasons why, you know, we're trying to make this change and we're trying to make curling a more inclusive and more diverse space. And at the end of the day, that's part of the kind of importance of what we're getting to. And did your curling clubs support you in executing your plan? Luke, was your club supportive of you in doing your plan for All Heart?
Very, very. I have a very close connection with my curling club. I've been there my whole life, like ever since before I even started curling. When I think I started when I was 7, around I think I was 7 when I started. But no, I used to come to the curling club every single time when my mom would curl on Monday nights. I'd be there when I was like 3, 4, 5 years old. And what is it? Just being there, getting to know, like there's some people that are still there now that were there when I was really young. So having like that very long lasting connection with a lot of people at my curling club was something that showed how supportive they really were, especially with my mom being on the board at the curling club, everything like that. It was just them being there and saying like, we have your support. This is what you're doing is really awesome. Just go and do the best that you can do, sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So was your curling club supportive of you in your plan?
Yeah, my curling club was very supportive. I'm very close with like everyone in the curling club. So like I was adopted when I was like around 3, and I started curling when I was around 5. And so like when I was like 5, I was always at the curling club. Like both my parents were curl and stuff. So like I would go down and watch my dad's games and stuff and my mom's games. And so like everyone knows who they were and stuff. And so like everyone knew who I was. So when everyone found out like I got the award and everything, like everyone came up to me, told me congratulations. And I had people volunteering to like help out before I even asked anyone yet. And like everyone was just very supportive throughout the whole thing. So yeah.
No, that's great to hear. And Com, what about for you?
Yeah, I think I have similar thoughts to what was previously mentioned, that curling club was definitely supportive, especially the the upper management, like the people in charge were supportive of my program. I wouldn't say that every single member at the Cataract Golf and Country Club was in full support of the program. I think there was probably a small minority that wasn't thrilled with the concept of the program, or didn't feel that it was necessary, or felt that it was uh, not needed or discriminatory towards other folks. But I think the majority was supportive of the program, and the majority received it well.
So if you don't mind, Com, can I just ask the question of, why people may have felt it was unnecessary? I know you said it was a minority, but these are some of the groups we're trying to speak to about the importance of diversity and inclusion. Was there a reason they felt it was unnecessary, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, I didn't engage in a lot of conversations with people who weren't thrilled with the program, but I think one of the uh, common thought processes that there already are existing learn to curl programs, there's already junior curling programs. Why do you need a separate special program for racialized individuals? Can't they just join the existing programs? Which at face value or surface value seems like a valid question, a valid concern, right? Like, you already have these programs. Why do you need additional funding and separate special attention for these racialized individuals? But I think these questions showcase a lack of a deeper understanding of the issues at play in curling clubs, and that people don't understand the reasons why curling facilities are not inclusive spaces for racialized individuals. So they don't see the need for a separate program to invite racialized individuals and make them feel welcome in the sport.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing a bit of that, and I can appreciate that. Always makes things a little more difficult when we're trying to do these programs, if there's not full buy-in from the club or from the curling community in our area. I think as you spoke to just now, sometimes it's very easy to miss the point in the case of, well, why do we need a special program? And then you go, well, we've had those learn to curl programs, and we've had newcomer leagues, and we've had beginners leagues for how long? Have you seen anything change? I don't know. Probably not. And trying to think a little bit, like sometimes it's just the perspective of some folks when they think through that as well, it's easy to miss that, and it's sad that's the case for some of those people, and I appreciate that you spoke to that. We wouldn't need a Curling for Change podcast if curling didn't need to change a little, right? Or if our curling clubs, which many of whom are struggling financially, many of whom are struggling with members, maybe didn't need to think outside of the box in that way, in trying to welcome newcomers and trying to welcome racialized communities and trying to welcome indigenous communities and trying to welcome, for example, in Luke's instance, Ukrainian communities. Like, if we don't do that work, people in those communities will not come, and they will not feel welcome, and they will not be a part of this curling community that we all feel so strongly about. And so sometimes kind of thinking through that logic is super super important. So I appreciate you articulating that. I think that leads well into, did you feel was your plan successful in the end? Kamraan, I know you had some media attention for your plan, which was super great to see. Did you feel your program was successful? Do you want to speak to a bit of the success of that?
Yeah, so before I launched the program, I defined multiple performance or success indicators, and I grouped those into three main chunks. The first one and most important one being, did the racialized individuals who I was inviting to curl, did they feel welcome? Did they feel like they had a good time curling? Did they enjoy the experience? Would they come back? That was my first key success indicator that I was assessing. The second one was more focused on a club or facility level, in that how was the program received by the curling facility? Did management and did members at the curling facility see the need for the program? Did they appreciate and support the program and want to see it again in the future? That was my second performance indicator. And then my third one was more of on a larger scale. And that was really to spread awareness about the need for diversity inclusion in curling, and showcase a model for how that could be done in curling clubs across the country and around the world. And I think if I were to look at my program through those three lenses, I would call it a success, in that the participants enjoyed themselves. A lot of them said that they never would have been in a curling facility without a program like this. And a lot of them, I can definitely see curling again in the future with their friends and family. At a club level, I think this program sparked a lot of important conversations with people, spread awareness about the need for diversity, inclusion in curling, and spark conversations about how the club can evolve and adapt and modify some of its existing practices and values to make it more inclusive. And then on a larger scale, on a more national level, I think I was fortunate to be interviewed by TSN. They came and filmed a feature of the program. We received some local media attention as well. And I think all of that served to spread awareness about the importance of the program, and showcased how other communities across the country can incorporate a similar program.
Yeah, for sure. And what I really love about that is that, with those performance and measurements and those success indicators for you, it wasn't about, did 30 people show up? It wasn't about, did we get 100 new members? It was about, how did they feel? Were they welcomed? Do they have a reason to come back? Do they feel comfortable coming back? Right? And like, that's huge. And even just that mindset shift, right? And that understanding is something that a lot of people may not think about. Like, a lot of people may view that success as again, as how many people showed up, or whether or not, they became members, or whatever the case may be. That's not the point, right? That might be the end result eventually. As you said, they might come back and curl. They might come and join the club. They might join a beginners league. That's fantastic. But it starts with welcoming them into the space, right? And making sure that those performance indicators you said are set and are met before you go towards how can we more empathetically, how can we more understandingly integrate these folks into our community? How can we better include them, rather is a better term, in our community further to that? And I think that's a fantastic way to measure that success. Sitaye, how did you feel your program went?
I think it was very successful. So after it was actually over and we went back to school and everything, a lot of the kids that did do it, like, were talking about it for like that whole week, and they're talking about how like it was really well done. And I had like one of the ESL teachers come down to also like help out with like some of the students that were there, and she said like she was telling me like everyone had a really good time and everything, and like everyone would not stop talking about it. They said they had a good time. Like I had about like 19 people show up, and I made sure to have like everyone would at least have someone to talk to, because like I want to make sure like everyone's talking to somebody and like no one's left out. And we also had games there, so everyone's playing games with each other as well. So, and then after, we had like about 13 people say they were going to do the 8-week Learn to Curl program. And then since now like the curling season's over, I had like a bunch of emails come back to me saying, "Oh, when does curling start up again? Please let me know. I'm like interested in everything." So yeah.
Yeah, and wow, and for anybody, you know, in business or finance or on the curling management side, 13 out of 18 is pretty good. for having people come back, or you know, be keenly interested in coming back, especially they're mostly younger people, were they?
They're like high school.
Yeah, like anybody right now is sitting at home going, how can we include younger people in our club? Well, here's a model of success for that, right? Of having younger people in those communities lead the way, because you know your friends, you know your school, you know what moves them. And anybody who's been in school or high school anytime recently and curled at the time, well and truly will tell you how many jokes are made about curlers in school. Um, you know, I've heard many a time in high school, curling's not a real sport. And then eventually, I told this story the other day, we had an advanced gym class in high school, and it was all the football boys. We had a now Olympian speed skater, and a world championship women's ringette player in our crew. It was a really successful gym class. I don't know what we were all drinking in the water or something, but you know. And I said, okay, let's go curl. Let's try this. And I never heard a joke about it ever again. So you know, that's something I think a lot of people can relate to in that way. But it's great to hear that was successful. Do you think you'll do it again?
Yeah, definitely, probably. I feel like I would, because like everyone, it sounds like everyone enjoyed it and everyone had a good time. Definitely, I would definitely do it again.
No, fantastic. So Luke, how did you feel about your program?
Very, very proud of it. I can attest to sort of what you said earlier about with Kamraan, is that it's not about like the numbers, it's about creating a welcoming environment sort of thing. And when we were setting up the curling club on the day of the first session, my dad had these little like all like the logos of all like local companies that like had brought food, or like my school division that supplied the school bus that would help transport all these newcomers to my curling club. And in the middle, it was a big like 3x3 of all these pictures and signs with like Canadian, Ukrainian flags and all that. And in the middle of it was a sign that said "Mi vitaimo vas," which means "we welcome you" in English, or I mean in Ukrainian. Sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was sort of the first indicator of sort of seeing everybody kind of walking in, looking a little confused and all that, and just seeing myself, and I got a bunch of other junior curlers within Manitoba to come out and help with the program. Just seeing everybody that was helping out have a smile on their face, being like, okay, yeah, this is what you need. This is a slider. This is a broom. It's going to go on your foot, whatever. And then as we got closer to getting onto the ice, we could see that it was more, the level of nervousness was kind of going like this, and the level of excitement was going like that. And just seeing that and well as such as much of a positive feedback that we got from a bunch of other people. Like I was at the this was on the 1 year anniversary of fighting. I was at the Canadian Museum for Human Rights, and if you're ever in Manitoba, great museum. I 100% recommend going to it. But I actually saw one of the participants from one of the sessions at the museum, and he was like, "Oh yeah, we want to try it again. We want to try it again." I was like, "Perfect, come to the next session." And but just knowing that even like 2-3 weeks down the road, I could recognize somebody that I helped create a positive impact on their life, seeing that they wanted to come back and try curling again was definitely one of the key indicators that this program was very successful.
No, that's huge. That's huge. And I think, you know, what I heard there that I want to latch onto a little is, you know, do you feel you mentioned your friends helped you, you mentioned other people in the Manitoba curling community helped you. Did you feel in welcoming, you know, those Ukrainians who had been through so much, and Ukrainian Canadians who had been through so much, and welcoming them into your club, into your program, do you feel like that brought your curling club or your curling community together while you were doing that as well?
Definitely. There was definitely sort of a sense of unity because a bunch of these other curlers that were helping out, like I said, Manitoba, large Ukrainian Canadian population, a good amount of them were also Ukrainian. So they sort of had that feeling deep down that I had as well when we were getting this together, and sort of bringing it together, and sort of that sense of pride and yeah, pride, and I don't know what the other word would be to describe it, but that sense of pride that you see in the community was something that helped us bring us closer together, and was definitely helped us not only be the best people that we can be, both on and off the ice, but to also be good role models for everybody else that was at these sessions.
Oh, for sure. That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Sitaye, did you feel a similar sense that your program and people helping, and you know, the folks who helped you make it happen, did you feel like that brought your curling club or your curling community together a little more?
Yes, definitely. So it was just like I felt like it was like we're doing it as like a curling kind of family kind of thing, because like the people I had volunteering, like I'm pretty close with them in general, and also my curling team was there helping me out. So just I helped kind of bring everyone together as like one, and like before everything happened, like we were all talking about how it was going to go down and everything. Like everyone was just so positive and excited for everything, to see how everything like went out and everything. And one of my favorite, probably like one of my favorite things was probably uh after we like when we started doing the actual 8 week program thing. There's this family came in and did it, and it was like all the siblings and everything, and a few of the people that were there volunteering and helping me out when we actually did like the curling for everyone that day. They went out on the ice and stayed extra time with them while everyone else was going back home and getting ready to leave. They stayed extra like hour or something, just stayed on the ice with them and like help them learn stuff. That's probably one of my favorite things to see.
Yeah, for sure. And Kamraan, how did you feel like it brought your curling club together a little bit more, even though there might have been some voices who didn't quite understand or maybe were skeptical? Did you feel it maybe brought your curling community together a little more?
Yeah, I think the program definitely sparked a lot of conversations, and a lot of individuals were uh, in support of what we were trying to do. But I think the most important community that was created or enriched by the program was the actual participants themselves, and that a lot of friendships and bonds were sparked between people, between the racialized adults who were trying the program. And I think like for example, one of the individuals got a job from one of the other people in the program, and new friendships were made. And I think that was the most important community that was fostered by the program.
Oh, that's fantastic. So we already touched a bit upon the impact of your programs in those answers. So I just want to focus the question a bit on, was there a moment in your program or a moment you had with someone in your program that may have sparked for you an understanding of what your program's impact was on the people involved? You know, did you share a moment with someone, or did you see something happen that you really sat there and went, yeah, that's because of that's part of this program, or that's the impact that I thought happened, or maybe kind of gave that realization to you? um Luke, did you have a moment like that where you said, like, wow, this is what this program did for people?
Yeah, it was sort of the kind of way I want to put it. It was like two moments at different times put into one. It was the first being when everybody stepped off the bus, and the time when everybody was getting on the bus to leave. It was that seeing everybody coming off at a curling club where they've never been before. They seen a kid holding a door open for them with a smile on his face, and everybody's looking all skeptical. And we obviously we do the session, all that. Leaving, they're all smiling, they're happy. In Ukrainian, they're got smiles on their face, they're shaking my hand. It was just seeing how much I've brightened up their day, and I've sort of helped create a better and a welcoming experience in Canada, was something that really sunk in with me and was like, wow, I really just did that. That was incredible.
No, for sure. And I think the one thing to remember is that it is incredible, right? Is that that is the impact you're having in doing that. Sitaye, was there a moment for you that made you think, like, wow, this is more powerful than I thought it may have been? Or
Um, so for me, it'd probably be a lot of my friends that had go there from my school, like, were Black. And so at first they're like, first they said they'll go to support me, kind of thing. And then after they did it, they were just completely shocked about, like, how, like, they didn't realize how hard the sport was. And then after, they said, like, they had a really good time, because before they would be making fun of me in school and stuff, but then now they haven't said anything about it since. And I think they gained some respect for the sport and stuff as well. But probably one of my favorite memories would probably be, there's this girl, like, one of the girls in my school. She's like kind of quiet, but when she got to the curling club and everything, and she understood how, like, this sport went, like, how you play the sport and everything, she really got comfortable. And then she started talking to everybody. She was like yelling hard and all that stuff. She was having a really good time and everything. And just seeing, like she's loosening up, being comfortable, you could clearly see that, and it was just nice to see.
no, that's powerful. It's kind of funny sometimes. I found that a similar experience to you a couple of times. Like, again, like, I tried it in my high school. We did Rocks and Rings one time, um, with a bunch of like 16, 17-year-olds, which was kind of hilarious. Um, and it was yelling hard that oddly brought everybody's walls down. It was one of those moments where kind of everyone was kind of like, oh, this is curling. I guess this is what this is. And of course, Rocks and Rings is different than bringing them to your club. But, you know, once they got into it at that point, then people's kind of walls came down, and they went, geez, I might try this again. Or, you know, that was kind of fun. I kind of enjoyed that. Um, someone might do a scientific study on that. I hope someone does, because it's happened for a very long time. But thank you for sharing that. That was great. Um, Kamraan, was there something for you that made you see that impact a little more clearly, or kind of communicated that to you?
Yeah, one moment really stands out to me, and uh, that was after the first session, actually when so after each on ice session, we had an off ice component, where uh, we had food available, like light refreshments for the curlers, and they had an opportunity to get to know each other a little better. And after the first session, they got off the ice, and we had some really great conversations. And I wrote these quotes down because I thought they were very impactful. Um, one of them said, I would have never been in a country club if it weren't for this program. I would never have tried curling if this program didn't exist. And I thought that curling was a sport for just affluent people. And those quotes and those conversations really showcased the impact that this program was making, and those sentiments kind of were consistent throughout the participants and throughout each session, and kind of showed the need and importance for this program.
Yeah, and maybe broke some perceptions and assumptions as well, and their understanding of the curling community, but maybe just your club and your local curling community as well, which is important, because in trying to, you know, think about how we can welcome other communities and other people and diverse communities in particular into our clubs. Well, what are the barriers to entry for folks to come into your building and to come participate in your leagues? And it may very well be a perception or assumption that could be true, could not be. Maybe you have to have a conversation about what that perception is and why. And that might help people understand a little bit more of why perhaps you're not reaching a certain group and trying to have them come and be a part of your curling club or your curling community. So thank you for that. You know, so having completed your plans, all of you have done so immensely successfully. This is super interesting for me to listen to, and empowering to listen to. What were some lessons that you learned in doing this, in enacting your plan? Sitaye, I saw you smile there for a second. I'm going to go to you. What was a lesson that you learned from your plan?
Probably like not to be afraid to reach out, because I feel like that's something that everyone's like, a lot of people are afraid to do, is like reach out because they're afraid of hearing the answer no. And like for me, that was what I was afraid of, hearing answer no and stuff. But like, and like since I'm kind of a shy person when it comes to trying like new things and stuff. So like I really had to push myself really hard to go out there to these organizations and let them know what I'm trying to do. And like after I did it, like I felt good that I did it and everything. And it was just like it was like, okay, like what you need to do is actually just go out there and just do it and just talk about it, and not just be like, I don't want to do it, I'm too nervous kind of thing. You just gotta go out there and do it.
Just go out there and do it. I think that's something we can all learn from a bit more, and that everybody can think of and everybody can say, but there's always a moment that pushes you to go like, oh no, I just need to seize this moment. I just need to go and do it. Com, was there something for you that you learned and took away from this?
I think that the biggest takeaway is that for me was that although increasing diversity, inclusion, and curling can seem like a daunting task, a large problem, really, I think all of our programs go to show that change is possible, and that it's not overly complex, and you don't need highly sophisticated and crazy funds to increase diversity, inclusion, and curling. It really just takes individuals who are passionate about the cause, and you will see results with just a little bit of effort.
I went to a summer camp for a long time, and they always had, you know, empowering slogans on the back of their shirts, and one of them was, you know, all you need is a little bit of all you need for triumph is a little bit of try and a little bit of oomph. Right, and it's one of those things, with that passion and with that drive, you can do that, and you can achieve success, and you can make an impact in your community. And it's about making sure you have the systems and the people around you to enable that. Right, we talk about that in life all the time, about if you want to do well, if you want to, whether it's in school or in work or whatever, you know, you need to have your support network around you that's best for you, and that includes making a difference in your community in that way, or in volunteerism, or in this plan. So thank you. Luke, what did you take away from all of this?
I think the biggest thing was sort of this little quote I was thinking about right before we started this podcast, was the smallest things make the biggest differences. And knowing that creating this program, I didn't think I was going to have 100 RSVPs within 24 hours of putting the form out. I didn't think that we were going to introduce 60 newcomers to Canada to the sport. And I didn't think that it was going to be as successful as I thought it was going to be. And knowing that I had the support from those around me and all that was something that really gave me motivation just to, I don't know how to describe it.
Did it give you did it give you the motivation to do it again or to do more?
It definitely gave me the motivation to become even more involved in the Ukrainian Canadian community, especially in Manitoba, as much as I possibly can. Obviously, it's busy at sometimes with school, work, and all that, and my other competitive curling. But just whether it be helping out a family that's just moved in somewhere, something like that, or just really anything, like it'll go a long way. And I'm sure it can be seen with the program is that, like, although it was only a 2-hour session on a Sunday afternoon, that might impact somebody's life for years. Like there's something I talked to my Canadian history class last year. It was like indirect consequences. It's like somebody scores a goal in hockey, like a big goal. It inspires somebody to become a professional hockey player. So maybe what anybody has done, especially with the All Heart, was created like that reaction that will raise a future champion in curling.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a really powerful thought, is to think about, you know, not only how meaningful your programs are in your own communities and with the people that you know personally, but with others who may see what you've done and see the success you've attained and you've achieved, and think for a second, well, maybe I could do that too. Thank you for that. So going forward, you know, what do you know, there's a lot going on. We're having symposiums across the country to talk about the future of curling. You know, there's some people who are out there in the social media ether who are talking about, we need to change this and do that, and maybe we could do this program, or maybe we could shorten curling this way, or maybe we could do curling in whatever Edmonton Mall. Like, there's been tons of ideas of how we could change curling, but you know, what ideas did you guys have that came forward that you think really, you know, need to be done to improve inclusivity in curling? I'm going to start with Kamraan.
Yeah, I think in your question, you mentioned a lot of ideas that have been proposed and discussed at all these conferences and symposiums. And I think these conversations are important. But what I would say is that I would encourage everyone to critically reflect upon their own personal attitudes and beliefs, because I think at the end of the day, all of this change really starts at an individual level. And without each one of us, including myself, reflecting on our attitudes, beliefs and biases, I don't see any of I don't see progress without change at the individual level.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's really important to consider, that self-reflection, and you know, asking yourself some of the tough questions, right? And do you have an answer for it? And if you don't, well, who do you need to talk to? And even if you think you have the answer, have you talked to someone in that community? Have you talked to someone who might be impacted by your decision making? Right? If you're trying to include younger people in your curling club, have you spoken to a younger person recently about what might bring their friends into the club? Right? About racialized people, or particularly newcomers. Have you spoken to them recently to ask them what may be more welcoming and inclusive to bringing them into your curling club? That's a start. And acknowledging, I think that was really important that you mentioned this, acknowledging your biases and where you're starting is huge, because you can't have a conversation with someone until you're at that same level of, here are my biases on the table. I'm going to lay them out, acknowledge them, act like I've acknowledged them, and bring myself to a point where I'm going to have this conversation with you and take something away from it to help my understanding and where I'm coming from. So thank you for kind of touching upon that, Gom. Sitaye, what do you think people can do? What do you think needs to change?
I think I feel like I know for like Newfoundland, it could be different in other provinces and stuff, but like in Newfoundland, I feel like curling clubs needs to be more to just reach out more and stuff, because like my curling club is like in the center of the city, and like people can only walk there because it's so close to them. And a lot of the people that I had at the program, they didn't even know that that was a curling club, and it was like 2 seconds away from their house. So I feel like the curling club could just like reach out and just like just I don't know what the word, but like just reach out and just put themselves out there to show other people that like we are welcoming. Because if there's someone's house that like the people that had come over for the program stuff, if they didn't know nothing about the curling and stuff, and it was right next door to their house. And like I feel like the curling community can just do more to reach out and say, oh, we are here, we are welcoming you, kind of thing, instead of just being to themselves, kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I think that's one thing as well, like all curling clubs can learn from is they're all at the center of communities or neighborhoods or areas. Well, have you thought about including your neighborhood or your community or the people around you? Have you spoken to them? You know, um, Luke, what do you think needs to change or what can be done?
I think what I'll base my answer off was very similar to what Sitaye said, and is that it's getting the word out. Like for my program, all our advertising for it was done on social media, and I feel like social media is something that a lot of curling clubs aren't taking advantage of. It's obviously has negative impacts, but for situations like these, it can really create positive impacts, like such as let's say registration night for your men's leagues or your women's leagues, anything like that. It's all about getting the word out, so people are always like, oh, when can I join, stuff like that. They send an email in like May or June, the curling club isn't going to remember exactly about that email that was sent 4 months ago. And it's all about, I think the biggest thing is if curling clubs were able to get the word out, especially to other groups, about when you can learn to curl, when you can join a league, stuff like that. I think that would really not only help benefit the curling club, but would also help grow the sport to a larger demographic.
For sure. Absolutely. And there's been a lot of discussion about how we could better utilize social media and online platforms to try and improve curling in a healthy way as well, right? In trying to make sure that our interactions with it are healthy as well. So thank you for speaking to that. Um, what advice do you all have for young people who might look to do some of the work you've done, to have the same impact? Do you have a piece of advice that you want to give them, Kamraan?
I think the largest piece of advice that I would give someone who's about to embark on a similar journey or is looking to embark on a similar journey is to, number one, genuinely believe in what you do and the cause and your mission, because if you do that, then everything else will become easy for you. And the second piece of advice is just to be brave and believe in yourself, because when you're engaging in social change, we've seen throughout history that there's always going to be people in support and people who may not be supportive of your social movement. And I think that it's important to be ready for that and to be brave and persevere through potentially challenging situations.
A powerful message for sure, for sure, for sure. Sitaye, what is your message to someone who may be looking to do the same that you've done?
Probably just not be afraid to reach out again, and not be afraid of the answer. And like someone's going to say no, some people are going to say yes, and just don't take the no as like, oh my goodness, no one's going to want to do it anymore. Like, you know what? That one person said no, and all these people said yes. So look at the positive side as well. And also just sometimes it can be overwhelming, because you know what, I was a bit overwhelmed at first, because I was a bit like, oh my goodness, but then after like I had like a lot of people help me out, and a lot of volunteers, and my mom and dad were there, helped me out. So just surround yourself with people that are supporting you as well.
And
Yeah.
Luke, what's your message to young people looking to do the same?
Never give up. It's these, what Tate said is that I myself as well was overwhelmed trying to figure this out, getting all those fine details together, who's got to be where, when, what are they doing, all that type of stuff. It's going to seem like a lot, but the end result that you will get, you will be so happy that you had to go through whatever you had to go through to create that positive impact on someone else's life. And to be honest, I think if I was thinking of doing this program and I ended up backing out, that I would feel that sort of feeling of regret, that why didn't I do this? Why did I back out last second? So for those that are thinking of doing something like this, 100% go for it. Don't give up on whatever you're aspiring to do, and the results will pay off in the end.
Yeah, that message of never give up. You know, we all have our own trials and tribulations and struggles in life, and we're all going through different things at different times, and remembering that if you persevere, if you push through that, good things will come to you. You know, you may not see it right now, but you are strong enough to face it all, no matter what it is, right? And to get to the other side and find that positive at the end of it all. Thank you for that. So my very last question to all of you is, we are all recipients of the All Heart Curling Award this year. It's currently, as I mentioned at the start, the application period is open. It's coming into its second year. More young people are going to get the same opportunity that we did to make an impact in their communities. Would you recommend that they take this opportunity, and why? Luke, did you want to start?
Well, first, I think it's obvious that all of us are going to recommend others to apply for the award. But the main reason, like you said, is why. And for me, it's like what I've mentioned probably a billion times in the last hour and a bit, but it's having that impact on somebody else. Like whether it's something as small as like saying hello and welcoming them, anything like that, all the way up until the point where you're like on the ice with them or something like that. Just being there and knowing like, hey, you know what? Like, this is something new to you. I'm going to try to teach it to you. I'm going to try to be like as best of a person as I can be. And it's that feeling deep down that gave me the motivation to create the best program I could and to be the best person I could be, both on and off the ice.
Fantastic. Thank you. Kamraan.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of what Luke said, I think applying for the All Heart Award and enacting your proposed diversity and inclusion program plan can really make a large impact on a lot of people's lives. And at first, these impacts may not be apparent. Maybe only one person or two people show up to your program, but maybe that one person ends up inviting 10 of their friends and launches their own program and spreads the word amongst their community. And all of a sudden you've created massive change. So I like to think about these programs as seeds, and you never really know how the seed will grow and the extent to which your program can really make a large impact.
And last but certainly not least, Sitaye, what's your recommendation?
I definitely recommend people to obviously to apply for the All Heart Curling Award, because like it gives you the opportunity to make a change and also like get connected with your community and people outside of your community and bring them into your community kind of, because I feel like curling in general is a community and family kind of thing in general. So I feel like the All Heart Award helps you do that and make everyone connected and like all of that in general. So yeah.
For sure. Well, thank you all for taking the time to talk with me today, and thank you for all of the work that you've done as part of the All Heart Award. I'm sure I speak for everybody from the Curling Canada Foundation, but also from a personal perspective of being A, inspired, B, impressed, and C, thankful to have all of you in the curling community and making the impacts that you are in your area, in your curling clubs. that is, it's amazing, and it's hard to describe, but it's unbelievably important, and I'm really glad that all of you have recognized that. My very, very last quick fire question for everybody watching, just to make a point, how old are all of you? Sitaye, how old are you?
16.
Kamraan?
20.
Luke?
18.
I am turning 23. Folks, all of us young people have made the impacts in our communities that you've just heard and listened to. And so if you're sitting there thinking, as Luke spoke to, that it's too hard, or that it's really difficult, or that you don't think you can do it, I encourage you to listen to the words of the young people here with me, and what you've just listened to in this podcast, and take some inspiration from it. And I hope you do, and go forward to make an impact in your own community and in your own curling club. And hopefully you've learned something and taken away something from this conversation. This has been the first episode of the Curling for Change podcast, brought to you again by Curling Canada and supported by the World Curling Federation. We'll be back again for another episode very soon. But until then, do take care. And like these folks, please do keep on changing the face of curling.